Welcome to the Gut Show. I'm Erin Judge, registered dietitian and founder of Gutivate, and I will be your host. My goal on this side of the internet is to empower those with IBS and digestive disorders to understand their guts better, to have a healthier relationship with their bodies, and make confident choices to improve their digestive health. During this season of the Gut Show, you can expect a weekly conversation covering a hot topic related to health, digestion, and IBS. As a disclaimer, I am a dietitian, but I'm not your personal dietitian. Everything we cover in this episode is meant to be educational and not a substitute for personalized care from your healthcare team. Welcome, and let's dive into today's episode. Are FODMAP troubles keeping you from enjoying your favorite foods? Our sponsor, FODZYME, can help you add these foods back to your diet. When sprinkled on or mixed into high FODMAP meals, FODZYME's novel enzyme blend breaks down the FODMAPs fructan, GOS, and lactose into easily digestible carbohydrates so that you can enjoy your meals without the worry. Learn more at FODZYME.com and use the code GUTSHOW to save 20% off any single order. Welcome back to the Gut Show. Today we have an interesting topic to cover. It's a bit of a sensitive topic, so I invite you to join with curiosity and think of this as just two people sitting at a table having a conversation, no judgment about everything that we're going to talk about, because I think, this topic, which is how diet culture and diets, the diet industry, eating disorders, disordered habits, how that impacts the gut. It can be fueled with a lot of emotion, feelings, and even opinions, because this is a pretty debated and controversial topic in the health world. So my goal is to approach this with nuance and, again, curiosity more than anything, as well as a little bit of science to better understand what's going on. And instead of trying to find this black and white answer of diet culture ruins your gut, or you can never try to lose weight, you'll ruin your health, or whatever, I don't want to go there. Instead, I want to dive more into, again, nuance and conversation. So before we get started, what is diet culture? We hear this talked about a lot online. And we see this a lot in the intuitive eating spaces, the kind of anti-diet spaces. So I wanted to pull up a few definitions, because this isn't something that is clearly defined. It's kind of something that we have made up in a way to put a description to what we're seeing in our culture and in our environment. So did a quick Google search, and here are some examples of this definition that I found. So diet culture is a social expectation that tells us how we should eat and look, and that if our bodies look a certain way, we are more accepted. So all about what you should eat based on how you look and what's acceptable. Diet culture is a moral hierarchy of bodies fueled by health myths, health beliefs. Diet culture is the pervasive belief that appearance and body shape are more important than physical, psychological, and general well-being. So diet culture isn't necessarily truly diet beliefs. Your diet is simply what you eat. The diet culture, dieting industry, weight loss industry, have taken the word diet and have marketed it to be a restriction-based, or with the intention of weight loss-based way of eating. But diet is simply what you eat. So the term diet culture was brought on to more accurately describe this part of our culture that has hijacked diet into a way to control our bodies to fit societal norms, which is typically thinner is better, and the way that you eat should look a certain way. This can also feed over into the world of healthism, which is the idea that the healthier you are, you're kind of better than others, right? There's a hierarchy where if you have better health, you are better off. And while better health is something that many of us really want and achieve for, the point there is that every person gets to choose, and also your choices and what you do every day aren't the only things that impact your health, right? So again, there's more nuance there. And just because maybe you don't have the best health or there's something going on, maybe you don't live as long or you have disease that you're managing or whatever, that doesn't make you less of a person and human being. So diet culture is similar in that it is rooted in this kind of fat phobia world where we say that if you are fat, you are less than those who are thin. And the fatter you become, the worse you are, and the less you are accepted. Like that's kind of where diet culture is truly rooted. Whenever we're saying, anti-diet culture or going against diet culture, the point is not to say that if you have more weight, that means that there will be no complications with that, right? The whole point is to say, one, diet goes way beyond trying to lose weight. Like a healthy diet does not mean just weight loss, right? Diet is how you eat for many different reasons, but also your weight and the way that your body looks, your appearance does not make you less than somebody else or better than somebody else. We are all human. We all deserve our needs, our basic rights. We all deserve compassion. We all deserve kindness. We all deserve to be treated equitably, right? And diet culture takes that away. So whenever we're thinking about gut health, how does diet culture play a role in gut health? Well, diet culture comes along with a lot of rules and information, right? Because if you're trying to make yourself smaller, if you're trying to fit into, again, societal norms, that means that you can't gain weight, right? Or you need to lose weight. And if you need to lose weight, there's a lot of rules around how you can get there. Like typically restriction of your diet is how you get there. Overexercise can be a part of that, skipping meals, things like that. So the stress from those rules and the information online can then create a stress cycle in your gut through the gut-brain connection and lead to a worse gut microbiome, more GI symptoms, and if you have IBS, significant IBS flares. There's also what we call a nocebo effect. If you have beliefs around food and you believe that certain foods are bad, which comes a lot with this whole diet culture world, right? There's good and there's bad foods. It's good for you, it's bad for you. That's kind of the big thing, right? You see the people shopping in the grocery stores, pointing out labels, biggest red flag there is. Those people, I don't get it. They don't know how to talk about nuance, right? But they're telling you all these things are bad. The nocebo effect is where if you believe something bad is going to happen, especially with food in your digestion, in your gut, simply you believing that that's going to happen and that expectation can make the bad thing happen. We see this a lot in IBS research. The opposite of this is the placebo effect, where if you believe that this treatment's going to work for you, even if it's literally just a sugar pill and it's not even an actual treatment, but if you believe it is, or you believe something that you're engaging in is going to help, it can help even without that intervention doing the help, right? We see this so often in research. So the nocebo effect, because of these rules, if you start to take them in and you believe, okay, this is bad for me, this is bad for me, this is bad for me, then that can lead to more GI symptoms, more discomfort, more stress, which then leads to more GI symptoms and can significantly impact your gut health, especially over time. Kind of in the same lines with that, what comes with these beliefs of things being bad for you, bad choices, you're less than if you choose these things, or you're less than someone else because you don't look a certain way. This can lead to poor self-talk and poor self-image due to that comparison, right? What typically happens whenever you look down on yourself and you think poorly about yourself, you likely will not treat your body well. And that can lead to what we call self-sabotage behaviors and a poor connection to your body's needs, which can worsen your gut health. So an example of that would be if you know certain things trigger your symptoms, or even alcohol is a gut irritant, right? If you are down on yourself, you may use these kind of vices to try to cover that up or to punish yourself. Maybe it's binge eating behaviors where you just eat a large amount of anything and you overload your digestive system. This can also look like punishing yourself by not eating at all. And if you don't meet your nutrition needs, your gut can't work for you. We see slow motility, slowed stomach emptying, a lot more symptoms in that way. And so that can lead to symptoms. Self-sabotage can also look like self-harm, and that can lead to more stress, right? Physical pain, which can lead to gut symptoms and worsened gut health. Another thing that happens in this world, because the focus of diet culture is all on the body, right? You see people talking about this where they're showing their before and after pictures, or I'm thinking of one person on TikTok where she shows like quote unquote healthier recipes of fast food options. And she's always in a bikini to showcase the body that you may idealize, right? You want to look like her, you can do her recipes, and that will help you look like her. This creates a hyper focus on your body. The more you see people checking out their own bodies, the more you're looking at your own body, the more you're trying to follow these rules and these recommendations to be smaller, you're likely checking your weight more frequently, your body checking, right? Looking at yourself in the mirror from all angles, squeezing different parts of your body and trying to hyper focus on it. Hyper focus on your own body leads to hyperfixation on any changes that you feel and sensations that you feel, which can be bloating, fullness, any discomfort. And this can increase what's called hypersensitivity, which is a heightened response to sensations in your body from your brain. And in those with IBS, this can lead to significant pain. This can also lead to significant changes in your body. So this can lead to even distension and bloating, where you're in kind of a negative feedback loop, right? Where you feel kind of full after eating, maybe because you've been restricting or it's your first meal of the day, maybe binging behaviors, whatever it may be, and you're just focused on it. The more you focus on it, the more that sensation and that sensitivity to the sensation worsens, and the more bloated you become. And that can even lead to physical distension in your body. It's the power of the gut-brain connection and just the brain overall in your body. And that can lead to worsened gut health and even choices that will worsen your gut health and in your symptoms. And that might even take you down a spiral of, well, if I'm bloated, I shouldn't be bloated. And again, diet culture, this kind of world of the smaller you are, the better, or the quote unquote healthier you are, the better, which is typically tied to how small you are, how flat your stomach is. They're ready to sell you supplements to treat this, which may do harm to your gut, to your microbiome. It may increase this hypersensitivity and lead you down a trail of even more restriction and kind of a hole that's really hard to get out of. Not only that, but a desire to be thin can lead to a restriction of calories and periods of fasting, which I kind of mentioned earlier, will slow motility and create constipation. If this leads to binging behaviors, this can cause more diarrhea, bloating, and pain. Again, you're overloading your digestive system depending on what you're eating. This could also kind of overwhelm your body, and these types of patterns can lead to food intolerances and other sensitivities where maybe you could tolerate something before, but now we've kind of disrupted the system enough where that tolerance has gone down. Oftentimes, that desire to be thin and the diets do involve a restriction of carbohydrates, which then will decrease your fiber intake. Fiber has consistently been shown to improve the health of your gut microbiome, and it helps with motility, which is awesome, but it also feeds those microbes. So if your fiber content goes down due to low carbohydrates, and even just your carbohydrate intake goes down, this can cause constipation, slow motility, and poor gut microbiome diversity. That can set you up for things like microbial overgrowth, things like that, sluggishness, bloating, discomfort, just not feeling great, right? Overexercise, again, to burn off the calories, to be thinner, that can lead to diarrhea and or constipation. That stress of the intensity in the exercise can slow down your gut. It can also cause kind of a dumping and stress effect in the gut, which for some will lead to diarrhea, very bloating, distension, all of that can be present. Are FODMAP troubles keeping you from enjoying your favorite foods? Our sponsor, FODZYME, can help you add these foods back to your diet. When sprinkled on or mixed with high FODMAP meals, FODZYME's novel enzyme blend breaks down the FODMAPs GOS, lactose, and fructan into more easily digestible carbohydrates, so you can enjoy your meals without the worry. I have personally used FODZYME all around the world, from Paris to New York City to my hometown of Nashville, and this has helped me eat out with more confidence, knowing I'm supported for my biggest triggers of garlic, onion, dairy, and beans. It is possible to enjoy food and eating out again without the worry of digestive discomfort, and FODZYME can help. Learn more at FODZYME.com and use the code GUTSHOW to save 20% off any single order. Weight loss medications. I know this is a super controversial topic, and it's one that, again, deserves so much nuance. Some of these medications, are used for multiple purposes and can be life-changing, like your GLP-1 antagonist. These are also known for really slowing down the gut, especially the stomach. They can lead to less tolerance of foods if you don't have good dietitian support to help you meet your nutrition needs, nutrition deficiencies, slowed stomach emptying or gastroparesis, more reflux, GERD, bloating, pain, all this discomfort can come up from these medications. And so that's kind of part of the weight loss that can happen, but that's not the weight loss you want, right? You want the sustainable weight loss where you're still meeting nutrition needs and your body, again, is able to function as well as possible. And some of these medications can interfere with that due to their effects, but also poor guidance on some of these effects that they have in your body. And then this desire to be thin and these rules can also lead to the development of eating disorders. So a lot of the things that I mentioned so far, these are what we call disordered eating behaviors. And the question is always, well, what is the line between healthy choices, healthy intentional choices with a health outcome that you want, like eating more fiber, for example. If you're constipated, eating more fiber to feed your gut microbiome and help you with motility, that's a healthy intentional choice. That's not a disordered choice, but the intention behind it, that's where we can really draw that line. So if you're eating fiber because you want to eat less and be thin and you want to be full longer, again, so that you don't have to eat anymore and you can restrict your calories, like that is disordered, right? That's disordered behaviors because you're not meeting your nutrition needs. You're not in tune with what your body needs and your own intuition. That is where the disordered line gets drawn. Now, you can navigate that, and through therapy, guidance, conversations with yourself, you can cross that line and come back, right? We see this a lot in gut health. I don't think it's fair to say any diet choices you make are disordered. That's not true. Logging your food is not always disordered. It comes down to what the intention is and how we respond to it, right? The response to changes you make should be giving you more flexibility and freedom in your life, helping you reach a goal that helps you live your life more fully. And in some cases, that could be weight loss, right? There's a lot of nuance. But these disorder patterns, whenever they are fueled with the desire to be thin, for instance, or the fear of bad foods, right? These rules that other people are giving you that are typically based in fear of either being fat, or then you are not considered equal to others or you're less than, or fear of being, having symptoms or having gut issues or whatever, right? This can be both ways. This fear leads to the disordered eating. And when that disordered eating now becomes the controlling factor in your life, controlling every part of you, that's where we can develop eating disorders and diagnose eating disorders. And again, that line is also very blurry. But we have kind of two sets of eating and feeding disorders. We have the set that is what we traditionally have thought about as eating and feeding disorders that are based around the desire to be thin and make your body smaller. They're very much based on the body size. Body dysmorphia is a huge factor in these. That's anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorder, and then I believe there's one that's unspecified. Another grouping of these eating and feeding disorders is what we see most often in digestive health, and it's called ARFID, avoidant food restrictive intake disorder. And that's where the desire is not to be thin. The reason for the disordered eating and the choices you're making is fear. So fear of food is now leading to significant decreases in nutrition quality, impact on quality of life, not able to eat out, not able to try new foods, presence of panic attacks with new food introductions, all of those things. So with both sets, any eating disorder that's present, and even significant disordered eating patterns, this can impact the gut through undernutrition. Again, if your gut doesn't have the energy it needs to function, it's not considered a priority. So when you do eat, your gut slowly stops being able to even handle it, right? And this can be really significant in those with ARFID, where now food tolerance has gone down. And so your fear is now being proven by your lower tolerance. And again, negative feedback loop, you get stuck in that cycle. Binge eating as well, where you have cycles where you're really restricting, your gut's not functioning, and then you overload it. And that leads to really significant discomfort. And then even anorexia, where you have this long period of restricting, or bulimia where you're purging, and then you start to try to maintain that nutrition quality, right? You try to gain weight, you try to meet your nutrition needs, but if your gut hasn't been functioning, now it's going to be harder to do that. And it can make the recovery process more challenging. So that's one way. Eating disorders can put your body in a stress state due to not meeting your needs. Your brain isn't fed, your body's not fed, that puts you in a stress state. Also, the stress of the fear in ARFID, or the stress of the body dysmorphia, trying to be smaller, kind of that stress you put on yourself, anxiety. Sometimes that's what's driving the eating disorder, that desire to be in control, which is linked to stress. That can lead to poor digestive capacity. Again, your digestion is not working like it should. More food issues, more food intolerances, more symptoms. And then we also have what's called a decrease in fundic accommodation. So your stomach has two main parts. The top of your stomach is what's called the fundus, and then the bottom of your stomach is called the pylorus. So the fundus is meant to take your food in and give it a little squeeze and start churning it up. And then the pylorus is able to take that kind of churned up, mashed up, ready to move through food, break it down a little bit more, and then pass it into the small intestine for absorption. Whenever you eat less and you're not actually utilizing your full stomach, that fundic accommodation, meaning how much the fundus is able to stretch and then squeeze and work with your food, goes down. So you're going to get full faster. You're going to have slowed stomach emptying because things aren't able to get mashed up and processed and moved on like they're supposed to. And that can lead to vomiting in some cases. It can lead to really large increases in reflux and GERD, which can damage the esophagus. It can also lead to nutrition deficiencies because now you're not even able to keep down or hold in those foods. And that's something that we can improve, thankfully. Like we can kind of retrain that accommodation, but it makes the recovery process even harder, right? Because it's more uncomfortable. So when we're thinking about diet culture in the gut, there's a lot of overlap. And I often get asked, by clients that I work with, I work in IBS and digestive disorders. And oftentimes we see clients who have a history of an eating disorder. And they always ask with tears in their eyes, and I'm probably going to get there too, because it's so challenging, right? Like, did they do that to themselves? And I think it's more complex than that. We know eating disorders can cause digestive issues, and some of that may not be 100% reversible. Some may. We also know that digestive disorders and issues with their digestion can feed into eating disorders. So there's a complex relationship there, and recovery is often really challenging because of that. So if you're on that side of things, or maybe you don't have an eating disorder, but you have noticed these disorder patterns and you're trying to come out of them and it's a challenge and it's hard, I validate that. And while it would be easy, yes, to blame yourself, especially if you're kind of stuck in that poor self-talk and, putting yourself down world that diet culture is fed into for you, it's easy to do that, right? And so I challenge you to kind of fight that and say, you know what, maybe the choices I've made have led me here. I'm choosing right now just to take care of myself. So that doesn't matter. What matters now is what I'm doing moving forward and how I'm taking care of my body. That's a really good way to get out of that, right? Really be intentional about looking at where these rules came from and challenge them. This is also where that guidance is going to be helpful. If you're working with a dietitian that you trust, you can work with them. My clients come to me all the time and say, hey, I heard this. What do you think? And as a good dietitian, I will either say, oh, that's not true, and here's why. Or I'll say, you know what, I haven't heard of that. Let me dig into that more and see where that might be coming from so we can better understand it. Or I may say, you know what, that can be true. Here's how we can use this. This is what we want to focus on. Or this is why I don't recommend that for you personally, right? That's where you want to get to with some of these recommendations and things that are out there so that you can feel more confident and reclaim that choice for yourself. Tip number 2 is reframe the purpose of diet choices that you are making. If your diet choices, let's say, are beneficial, so these food rules aren't necessarily harmful or wrong, but maybe the intention behind them and that purpose is disordered, right? If your purpose is to eat less, be smaller, be thinner, be more acceptable to others around you, but the choices you're making also could be improving your digestive health, could be helping you manage a condition like diabetes with blood sugar control, right? Maybe they're helping you feel better in your workouts, right? They're helping fuel things that you're doing that matter to you. We want to reframe the purpose so that we, again, can reclaim the reason we're making it. And instead of it being a way to like punish, put down, kind of control our bodies. It's more of a way to serve in a form of self-care to our bodies. This is hard. Again, this is where you may need some guidance. You may need a lot of journaling. I personally love self-talk, verbal self-talk, like truly talk through these things. And each time that little thought comes up, like, oh yeah, you're doing this to be smaller. Nope, that's actually not the reason why I'm doing this. This is the reason I'm making this choice. And within that, you might be able to even open the door for flexibility of like, okay, now that I'm making these choices for a purpose that's serving me, is there room for flexibility that that old purpose that was controlling me didn't allow, which may open the door for social time, better quality of life, just more options, and even maybe even more diversity for your gut, which will be a benefit, right? And then my third tip is to nourish your body and get guidance for building your intake back up. If your intake is low, if it is sporadic, the best thing that you can do is have consistent nourishment for your body. Typically, this looks like calories first. Again, just getting your body used to being fed. Then we go into balance, maybe building back in some of the groups that were eliminated, or kind of modifying some of those, finding that balance of your micronutrients again. And then we start digging into diversity, micronutrients, overall optimal nutrition, and flexibility. Part of this, if you have had really low intake, if you've lost weight, may look like restoring weight loss. It may look like improving that fundic accommodation in your stomach. We may have to adjust how you eat, textures of foods. There's a lot of ways that we do that based on the symptoms you're experiencing and how your body's tolerating it. So if you are working on this and you are really struggling and you're not feeling great, know that that might be part of the process. And so what we typically do in our practice, if we're helping patients with this who have digestion issues, right, is we take an approach that's going to work best for them. We communicate that and the steps of it so that we can keep progressing and not get stuck. And then we also find ways to support those symptoms on the back end so that you're not left feeling completely uncomfortable and miserable as you're working through the process and your body is starting to adapt again. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And again, it's just us having a conversation. These are things I see often in my practice. And I know I probably didn't cover it all, right? There's so much nuance. There's so much that can go into this, and every single person is unique and different and has, their own history that requires personalization. And there's just so much here. But if this resonates with you, or you have something you want to add, I would love to hear from you. You can share in our Facebook group, the Gut Community. You can find that in our show notes, chat with some other people in our community. We also have on social media, especially Instagram, a post for this episode. So you can go there and comment. I'd love to hear that. And if you have a review to add, reviews help us reach new people and also helps me see what you've enjoyed to provide more of that. So please consider that if that is helpful for you. And if you're looking for a dietitian, please reach out. While we in our practice don't necessarily treat eating disorders, we can definitely help with the digestion side of things and help connect you to maybe providers that can help and directories. So please reach out. We are happy to help as much as possible. Thank you again for listening, for being with me in this episode. Next week, we are going to go deeper into your immune system and how that interacts with your gut. Feeding the body first is always so important. But it's also helpful to dig in and understand how all the systems work together. And the immune system is of particular interest when it comes to digestion, gut health, and IBS. So get excited, and I will see you in that episode. Are you really fed up with your IBS symptoms controlling your life? Are you frustrated with feeling like you're going in circles day in and day out, and you seem to try things on your own? You're taking in all the information, but you're still finding yourself stuck. If that's you, I invite you to join the Master Method membership. This is a science-backed holistic program for IBS that we've developed with you in mind. It covers what to do to support digestion, how to support the drivers of IBS, including gut-brain connection, your microbiome, altered motility, and even altered immune activation. We also talk about how to support your nutrition and your overall health through your diet, with a focus on what to actually add to your diet versus only what to take away. And we guide you through all 3 steps of the low FODMAP diet process in many different ways if you want to use that evidence-based tool for IBS. This program has been proven to work with many with IBS because it truly does approach health and well-being from a whole body perspective, while also targeting IBS specifically. So if you're ready to get guidance so that you can take control of your symptoms, join a community of others who are working on their IBS and ready to connect with those who get it, and lifestyle resources to help you every step of the way, then join the membership today at the link in show notes.